here's the thing. For everybody listening, don't make the same mistake the Bengals just did in any facet of your life.
People are going to get hurt. It's the hockey season. And if they want to make the deep run to the playoffs, they're going to need players. And Ben Hutton's a good defenseman that can help.
I don't think they will. If they don't have Anthony Davis, I'm saying it right now, if Anthony Davis is out for the playoffs, they don't make it out of the first round.
I was very tempted to just put defense.
What about the Jared Cook play on the sideline? And then Mason Crosby's 55-yard field goal or something like that. That was a good one.
Come on, Austin and I have been saying this ever since Joe Burrow got injured.
I just do not see Harden putting in the same amount of effort into each game. Yeah, I honestly believe that's why he hasn't won a championship yet.
That's a perfect name. What you said, name brand players. Like, it's not the great value Target brand toilet paper or whatever. It's the Charmin Ultra Strong.
I swear we didn't script that.
Fultz is injured, and he really hasn't lived up to the potential of being the number one overall pick when he was selected by the Sixers.
Like you said, Ovechkin, he's getting older. He hasn't been playing as well as I imagined. He's one of the greatest goal scorers of all time, but he hasn't started off this season as hot as I would hope.
How is Joe Burrow going to get the ball to them if his butt is already on the ground and he finally decides who to throw to?
I don't really think the Dodgers are going to make the World Series this year. I feel like they'll make it to the NLCS.
And then I want to talk about the Fernando Tatis extension, because that really surprised me. Because he's so young. You see the Chiefs beefing up their O-line, and then you have the Buccaneers beefing up their defensive line.
Ingrained in the life of Tom Brady and what winning actually looks like, I think will be a very good move for Bruce Arians and this Bucs organization.
Hi, I'm Jeff Allen, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our 64th episode. Make sure to check out our last episode, which was an East preview, where Austin and I are tied 7-7. It's because we haven't reviewed the West, which will be our next episode. Just a little spoiler there. Now, today is the episode we postponed to do our last episode. And that, of course, is last year's rookie quarterback season preview and predictions. And I was correct when I said it was episode 15. 2 episodes ago when I guessed it. So this is the Joe Burrow class. Let's just call it like that. Number one overall pick. So we're going to do a review, and then we'll give our predictions. Each of us will give our predictions about how we think they will do next season. So let's start with the number one overall pick, Joe Burrow from the 2020 NFL Draft. What were your thoughts on Burrow this year?
Yeah, so we've already talked about Burrow a lot, especially how he's influenced the Bengals organization to do some questionable things. But yeah, he started off as the best QB in the rookie class, and then Justin Herbert got to start a couple weeks after Joe Burrow started, and then Justin Herbert took over that spot, especially after the injuries that Joe Burrow went through for reasons that the Bengals decided to neglect during the draft. But, I mean, I see a bright future, but that's only if he can stay on the field. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, just to go to your they didn't really neglect, because they took an offensive tackle in the second round. I neglect, I think, is too harsh. Maybe took a different route where you could have just gotten Penei Sewell instead of Jamar Chase. So that's how I would think about it. Like, okay, you did get an offensive tackle. Okay. Smiley, sort of like grin. Yes, you quote unquote passed, but come on, do better. And then he finished the season with 2,688 yards, 13 TDs versus 5 interceptions. And they give him a new target, Jamar Chase. So if he is able to avoid the pressure, and I'll look up the schedule right now, but if you his division games are going to be terrible, because almost every single team in that division has a great pass rush. You got TJ Watt. You got not Yannick Ngakoue. You got Calais Campbell. And then you got the Browns, Myles Garrett, and they just signed Jadeveon Clowney. That's where he went to. So that's going to be scary. So I'm I'll talk about my predictions, and he's even facing the Bears at one point early in the season, so that's going to be scary. But if he can just get a line in front of him, he'll be great. But we said this in the week in our episode 15 is he has right now has the highest potential to be quote unquote like Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck had a fantastic start for when he played, and it was a great quarterback, but his career was cut short because of the Colts not giving him a line in his first few years. But do you have any final thoughts before we move on?
I mean, it's just we don't want to see him become Andrew Luck. That's why we're saying this. We're not saying that he's bad because he wants to move the wide receiver route. We're just worried about his health. We just don't see him progressing as he should unless there are extreme measures taken for the safety of the player. I hope he does well, and I expect the best from him and for him, but the way it's going, it just doesn't bring about confidence. But what are your predictions for him next season?
I am probably going to say I think he stays healthy. It's just that division, but he does face the Chargers, and if they're healthy, that's bad. He also faces the Packers. So those are some just outside of the division, some dangerous lines he may face. So I'll probably say 4,000 yards, maybe 3,500 yards, and then maybe I'll say 30 TDs with 12 interceptions. What about you?
Yeah, so I'm going to go a little bit less than that, and it's probably because I don't expect him to play all 16 games during the season. I'll go 3,200 yards, 24 TDs, and 8 picks. A pretty good season, especially with the interception ratio that I just mentioned, TD to interception ratio, 24 to 8. It's pretty good, but I just don't anticipate there's any way he plays all 17 games during the season. I'd probably say he plays at least 13, but for all 17, that's going to have to take some great O-line play that I just don't know if he's going to receive.
Yeah, it's very true. I think we can move on to the second quarterback who now is being handed the keys to the offense because Fitzmagic is no longer there. And this is Tua Tagovailoa. Last time we talked about him was he was about to make his first career start in week 8 when he faced the Rams. And he finished the season with 1,814 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. So, what are your thoughts this past season about Tua?
Yeah, he was a very tentative player. He did not have much risk in his game, and I think that's why they brought in Ryan Fitzpatrick in big moments last year. So they definitely are going to have to instill some confidence in him for him to perform to what we know he can do. I definitely anticipate him to have more passing yards than he did last season. However, that's not a big increase in expectation as he only played half the year. So he definitely has the best team around him of these teams that we're going to talk about, at least when we're talking about offense and defense, because I know the Chargers have a great offense, but their defense is suspect as they've lost a lot of corners recently and are moving off of. They also hired an offensive head coach. So, I mean, it's just, while they are probably the best offense on the board, they're definitely moving towards a less of an all around type of motion. What do you think?
Wait, Chargers head coach? Or
Mm-hmm.
well, he's it's actually defense coordinator. It's a defensive guy. The Rams, Brandon Staley.
Was I thinking about the Eagles guy then? Who the
Yeah, I
Eagles
think
get?
you're thinking of the Eagles person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, who is quote unquote like he was close to Frank Reich, and they want Frank Reich back, so that's what they got. It's their discount Frank Reich in Eagles'
That's
eyes. But to talk about Tua, I think he is going to have more yards, but it's going to be weird because he's having co-offense coordinators, which are George Godsey, who's a tight ends coach and a former quarterback coach for the Lions in 2018, and then Eric Studesville, who is the running backs coach for the Broncos from 2013 to 2018. and then he was the running backs coach for the Dolphins. So it's very interesting, but I guess I'll start with my predictions. He also got Jalen Waddle and Will Fuller. Jalen Waddle being a former college teammate, so I think we're going to see him take some more aggressive steps. But I think we can do predictions. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so I think he's going to have a slow season, a season where running backs are really going to take over, but he's still going to have an effective touchdown throwing year. I see about 2,750 in yards, 2,750 yards with 19 touchdowns and 11 picks. I just don't think I see him getting 3,000 yards even with the extra game this year. He has had some injury concerns early in his career, but I don't think that's going to be a big issue since their O line's pretty decent. And it's just going to be how he adjusts to a new offensive coordinator. So we'll see. What do you think?
Yeah, it's tough having a new offensive coordinator, especially which I don't think I recall the last time someone said they were having co-offense coordinators. Like you have an assistant coach, but it's something new to me, so I don't have much faith into it. So I have 2,800 yards, 20 touchdowns, but 14 interceptions because I think he's going to go, okay, I need to be aggressive, which is going to cause him to throw a lot of picks. He's going to go way too far in that correction. So those are my predictions. Now I think we can move on to Justin Herbert, who was the number 6 overall pick, and he was offensive rookie of the year. And he had 4,336 yards, 31 TDs, and 10 interceptions. And then we just talked about Brandon Staley, new head coach, defensive minded, and then his offense coordinator's Joe Lombardi, who is, of course, the grandson of Vince Lombardi, the great Packers head coach, and, of course, great head coach of the NFL, or within the NFL. Everyone knows that guy's name. If you're an NFL fan, I'm pretty sure. So I think, what were your thoughts on Justin?
Yeah, so he was far and away the best rookie QB in the class, especially last year. And I think he's going to have a great second year. Normally, people assume that a second year is a sophomore drop-off season, but I just don't see it with Justin Herbert. He played so well last season and consistently went up against great teams, and he almost beat the Bucs. He almost beat the Chiefs twice. I mean, he really was impressing everybody, and I don't think that's going to slow him down. Even though he is having a new offensive coordinator, it should not affect him in the slightest, in my opinion.
And you know what they also did, Austin? Like, totally shocking moves. They signed offensive linemen. Most of them Packers linemen.
Absolutely shocking. Yeah, they got Corey Linsley. The year before that, they got Brian Beluga, and they also drafted a lineman. So, I mean, it's it's all working out.
It's like groundbreaking free agency moves.
I know.
Just a whole new way how to build a football team. I'm going to disagree with you, though. I think he does take a step back because of the offense coordinator and because of the head coach. Staley is a defensive guy, so I think you did invest in offensive linemen. Of course, that's about passing game, but also about the run game. So I think Staley is going to be a guy who wants to run the ball and just rely on his defense because he's the defensive guy. And I think it's going to take a little time for Justin because I think if they kept the same offense coordinator, he would have definitely gone really high. He would have exploded and done amazing. So because of that, I still am getting to 4,000. I'm going to have him 4,000 yards with about 30 TDs, but about 13 interceptions for my prediction. What's your prediction?
Yeah, so I just want to mention one thing to kind of go against your prediction that defensive head coach means less yards. We saw Tom Brady's best season with Bill Belichick as his head coach. He threw over 50 touchdowns, first person to do that, and their offense was in 2007 was amazing. Tom Brady, not in that season, he threw about 4,800 that season, I believe, but he also had another 5,000 yard season after that. So I mean, just because you have a defensive head coach is not necessarily indicative of a shortcoming on the passing side of the ball. And Austin Eckler is more of a receiving back anyway, so I feel like this feeds into the system even more. But my prediction is 50. No, calm down, Austin. 45-50 yards, 4,550 yards, 37 touchdowns, and 12 picks. I do think he's going to have more picks than he did last year. Last year he had 10, but that adds 2 games to his schedule as he was out week 1 and he didn't. And now there's a 17th game, so I think he'll throw 1 or 2 more picks next season. And for the yards, we're not trying to get exact on the yards because that'll be tough. But it's a range. But touchdowns and picks we're trying to get right on. What about you?
Yeah, so I'll just reiterate mine: 4,030 touchdowns and then 13 picks. And then that's a good point you mentioned about Tom Brady and towards the defensive coach. I just that's one thing to keep in mind, but also offensive coordinator I think is mine, because even the great Aaron Rodgers, his first year, had a little bit trouble just getting used to Matt LaFleur's offense. But
That's
then
true.
when he figured it out, he won MVP and kind of wrecked the front office plans for the Packers. But so that's just one point. But I think we can move on to Jalen Hurts, which very interesting situation he was put in. He was put in, and then Doug Peterson takes him out because he's trying to get higher draft picks. But he is much. He's probably not the best passer. I think that he still has to work on that, but he is a great dual threat quarterback. What did you think about him this past season?
Yeah, so I mean, he was impressive in his short stint. He almost came back against the Cardinals. I remember that in one of the last games that he played. But it's an interesting situation they're going in. They have a new head coach because of how their coach last season worked out, how he was basically tanking to get a higher pick, and the Eagles front office did not approve. But I think it's going to be an interesting season. I do think for him we should include rushing touchdowns because I think for him that is a big part of his game and will be essential to his success next season, especially if the Eagles' offense is going to be better since they did draft Devontae Smith. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I couldn't find the rushing touchdowns, but a total he had 16 touchdowns and 4 interceptions with just 1,000 yards passing, but he came in very late. And then we mentioned Nick Sirianni, the new head coach, and then offensive coordinator for the Colts since 2018, and then Stain Stetchen is now the new offensive coordinator. And a funny thing about this is he was the offensive coordinator for the Chargers last year when Justin Herbert had the great rookie season. So I guess that's leaning into that's helping Jalen Hurts, but it seems like there's a quarterback competition because they also got Joe Flacco. But you got something to say?
Yeah, he had 3 rushing touchdowns last year. Just to throw that in, so he has 6 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns in the 4 picks that you mentioned. But like you said, there is going to be a QB duel between them. But I do think the edge will be given to the younger guy, especially as Joe Flacco has not really performed since leaving Baltimore. But I wouldn't count him out as he's proven in short stints that he can still be a competent QB. It's just last year with the Jets, it was the Jets. So they were so bad they couldn't even get the first pick. So that really shows the organization that was. So what do you think about the prediction?
Okay. So for my prediction, I'm going to say, let me go 3,150 yards and then 28 TDs with 15 interceptions. And then I'm going to go 7 rushing touchdowns. What are your predictions?
Yeah, so I have a worse season with more passing yards. I think he has 3,300 yards, 27 touchdowns, 18 picks, and 6 rushing touchdowns. I feel like he will have a sophomore slump, but he still will be a competent QB, someone who can get wins, and hopefully, especially for Eagles players like Jason Kelce, who I think he said that this was going to be his last season. That we'll see if they can make the 7th playoff spot. That division is going to be really interesting, and during our predictions, we will definitely go deeper into that division because the NFC East is just crazy. I don't really know who's going to win it. All teams are viable. Injuries will happen, but we'll see what transpires.
That's very true. And then the Eagles, I think, are still keeping Ertz because I know there was some shaky ground. Like he wasn't sure if he was going to come back to the Eagles.
Yeah,
But
that definitely was the case, but we'll have to see what they do. I wouldn't be surprised if they trade him, but we'll see what happens.
yeah, and now I think we can move to the guy who I I'd be very scared. Like if or I'd be very upset if he saw time because that means something happened to the star quarterback, Dak Prescott, of course, which is what forced him into the role because Andy Dalton also got hurt, and that, of course, is Ben DiNucci. So Austin corrected me. I think it was last episode I said we did it right after the Eagles game, and he was like, no, we actually did it when he came in for the Washington football game, so he missed that game. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, so I just want to give a disclaimer. All the QBs that we mentioned were going to play the next week in any capacity. I knew that Jalen Hurts didn't start that week, but he was going to come in and play. We knew that Tua was going to come in soon and play after the bye week. So we knew all these players were going to play soon in their next game in any capacity. So that's why we had Ben DiNucci, because we wanted to include him, because no other rookie. These were the only five rookie QBs that were going to play this week. Or not this week, but their next game, because I remember the Dolphins had a bye. But yeah, Ben DiNucci, I don't think was given enough credit for what he did. He never threw a pick, and his fumbles were because the O line was so injured that fumbles happened. But I don't blame him for the loss, as many Cowboys fans may do. But I don't hold it against him, and I do think he can become a competent, at least backup QB, an intelligent guy that can just get a job. I know he went to James Madison, and that's not a terrible school for that. What do you think?
Yeah, like he was the 231st pick. Like it was, and he didn't have preseason. We're probably going to see a ton of them in preseason, and it was just tough with all that. So I definitely see him competing for the backup role. Even though I think Garrett Gilbert is probably going to make it, but then Ben DiNucci might be the third quarterback on the roster or on the practice squad. I feel he beats out Cooper Rush. And he's also a guy that Mike McCarthy liked. So I definitely see him. He can probably become a backup in the future. And that's always needed just in case something bad happens to the QB. So yeah, I those Cowboys fans who were probably complaining about him probably just didn't understand the impossible task he was given. Like, hey, you barely know our playbook. You haven't had a snap. Here's a snap in your first start. So pretty rough for him, but I think he'll rebound well. Any final thoughts?
I would like to say my predictions for Ben DiNucci this season. I see him throwing 147 yards and throwing his first TD without throwing a pick. I think he'll come in maybe at the end of a blowout, either way for the Cowboys, losing or winning, and maybe throw a couple completions. I don't know. I'm going for 147 yards and a touchdown throughout the season. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully, Dak doesn't get hurt this year. I would love to see him continue throughout the season to see what he can do in a full season, especially with the great wide receiver talent they have with CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and the crew. But what do you think?
Yeah, so I'm going to go a little bit higher. I'm going to go 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and I'm going to say it's during the Week 17 game after the Cowboys have clinched the division. So we just put Ben DiNucci in, and I believe we play the Eagles in that schedule. Or no, we play the Patriots. I'm pretty sure for the last game. So that's my prediction: 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. Nope, it is the Eagles. So he gets his redemption against the Eagles in the last game of the season after the Cowboys have clinched. So that's me being a little hopeful. Thank you for listening to us. Make sure to check out our interview with Cy Mendenhall and also talk about another interview alumni, Jeff Allen. He just started his podcast, which he announced in our interview, and it is with Mike DeVito. It is very informative, and I greatly recommend it. And I will see if I can put a link into it. Hopefully, YouTube doesn't get mad at me. Thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions. Just a reminder, our next episode will be first round West review, which I'm very sad that I have to talk about again, relive those memories. And then second round preview of the West. Thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions.